Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We have a special guest, many of you have met him before. This is Westin from Mizuno. Hi Westin.
Hey Alysia.
So Westin is here with us today because, of course, as many people start getting fit and getting more active, we often get into running. And Mizuno make my favorite running shoes. I've been running in them for about 8 years now, many races and many happy miles. And I get asked a lot about shoes and what people should look for and things like that. And that really is Westin's area of expertise, much more than mine. So Westin, maybe if you wouldn't mind not talking specifically about Mizuno, but shoes in general, what are the components of a shoe? What should people look for?
Yeah, there are basically four main parts of a shoe, and the main thing that you want to look for, the main thing that's going to really help you out in a shoe is this usually white foam material called the midsole, and it's really going to provide all the cushioning, shock absorption, and stability that is built into a shoe. The next thing is the upper of the shoe, and basically it's just engineered to fit your foot, and the laces, you basically just want them tight enough so that the shoe doesn't fall off your foot. And then the outsole is just gonna, whether it's a trail shoe or just a road shoe, it's gonna be designed a little differently for those different surfaces.
Okay, so you hit on two important things there that I want to make sure everybody caught. The most important part, it sounds like, in terms of shock absorption and being kind to your knees,
yes,
is actually this bit through here. It's
yep,
not actually the very bottom part. And by the way, if you see grass on these, Westin was actually wearing these 5 minutes ago. So these are his own shoes. So we're looking for the shock absorption of the midsole. And then the other important thing that you said was how tightly to lace them. Because I know some people have fears about shoes, like, you know, their feet sliding out of their shoe. And sometimes we lace our shoes too tight. And then I hear people say, well, I started running and my foot tingled and went numb. And that's often an indicator of too tight laces. Is that right?
Usually, or width. Sometimes numbness can come from the width of the shoe. So you want to make sure that you're not really, when you step into the shoe, you're not hanging off the side of it, so that it is just accompanying your foot nicely in terms of width.
Slipper-like.
Yes.
Which actually is one of the things that I first liked about Mizuno. You know, I didn't know anything about the company or the shoes or anything. I just went and I got my shoes professionally fitted, which I always recommend, and they were just the most comfortable on my foot. Now, everybody's foot's different, of course. Some people are going to find that these are their most comfortable shoes. There might be another brand that suits you. And, you know, we're not here today to sell you Mizuno. We're talking about shoes and getting the right one for your foot. And you know, you do need to get those professionally fitted either in a running store, or you guys have a website too, right?
Yeah, so myprecisionfit.com is a way that you can go and diagnose yourself basically as to what type of shoe would be most appropriate for you. So whether typically it has to do with arch type and then a couple other things that play into it, but if you typically have a higher arch, your arch is going to be a little bit more rigid, so when you step down it's not going to flex as much. So you would just usually go with a neutral shoe that has more cushioning. But then if you have a lower arch, it is going to flex more or roll in when you step down on it, and so typically you need a stability shoe, which companies do different things with their stability. We do a thing where our technology is called wave technology, and it basically transfers shock linearly instead of coming back up into your legs. So when you step, it distributes shock this way. And then for the stability, we add another material in so that it keeps your foot from rolling in.
Okay, and that's called pronating, right?
Called pronating, yep.
So if you have the lower arch, you may be more prone to pronating or over-pronating, and so you'd go with more of this type of shoe. Is that
more of a stability shoe? Yep, correct.
Okay, so we have an example of the neutral shoe as well. These look very high-tech. Don't be put off. When I first saw them, I'm like, oh, very 22nd century. But this is for somebody with a higher arch, right?
Yep. So basically, these holes are for shock absorption and cushioning. So every time you step down, it flexes a little bit and cushions your weight and cushions your body, and sends that shock absorption this way instead of coming back into your legs.
Okay, and that's where you get help with avoiding shin splints and also being kind to your knees, right?
Correct.
So shock absorption is everything, which leads us to the fact that there definitely are different levels of quality in running shoes, and as with many things, you truly get what you pay for with shoes. You know, we all love a bargain. We love to go and find something for $40 that, you know, we saved half on or whatever. But with shoes, you're really paying for research and development, right? So
Correct.
You said there's sort of a threshold.
Yeah, there's a threshold at about $80 at retail where the companies start putting better materials into their shoes. So like for this shoe, for instance, we spent 7 years in developing this thing. And so countless samples are out there in the world that weren't quite right. And so just so much development goes into certain shoes. But the materials that they put into the shoes at about an $80 level, they just start putting the better foams for shock absorption, more technology, whether it's more wave technology or gel or air that the different companies use. And they just, even in the upper, like for instance, this one has this two-way stretch mesh that works in concert with your foot and the way it works. Just better materials are in the shoes.
It's a crazy looking shoe, but I've been running in this actual shoe. You might be able to see some of the dust on it. I've actually been wearing this shoe and it is really, really comfortable. But I think something Westin just said now is really important. We're not just talking about the price point for Mizuno shoes, we're talking about most shoe companies. So whatever your brand is, you're looking at, kind of the $80 threshold for really getting the quality you want, because, you might look at a $100 pair of shoes and say, wow, that's a lot of a lot of money for a shoe, but you're going to be wearing it a lot and you want to be comfortable and you want to be kind to your knees, because getting your knees fixed is way more expensive than one really good pair of shoes. So I think that that's really important to acknowledge. Is there anything else that we should know about shoes before we either go online or to a store to get fitted for them?
Yeah, and typically your specialty store is going to carry the better shoes, so they'll be able to kind of head you in the right direction in terms of what's a good shoe.
Mm-hmm. And you do also want to go to a specialty running store. I've found that I would rather talk to somebody that does a lot of running and actually, wears the products that they sell, rather than going to maybe more of a general sporting goods store sometimes where, maybe the person helping you is a runner, but maybe they're not. So, if you do have access to a general sports goods store, try and find somebody who runs to help you with your shoe fitting, because you'll have some specific questions. But like Westin said, those specialty running stores also really know their stuff and they're going to be really good with doing the fitting for you. So that's it. We've learned a lot about shoes today. Thank you so much, Westin. We really appreciate you coming in to see us. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Happy running.